Well, let's talk about nostalgia then.
Can we also mention the fact that this took us a solid hour
Yeah,
to
for anybody who hears this in the future, this was a pain in the ass.
yeah. And I personally think it is due to the fact that it is different technologies. If that's the case, I'm getting this on my phone.
Basically, Mike's old, and I feel older, and we don't know how to use our phones correctly. Um, I blame the internet and Trump. So, and you had a topic you wanted to talk about. First of all, welcome to this isn't, yeah, we might as well call it that, I suppose. Welcome to the Simply Opinionated podcast, even though this one isn't done on the Simply Opinionated podcast.
Yes, we will find a way to make this on on our actual thing called Simply Opinionated, which just rolls off the tongue, and it was just birthed by pure genius. Really, it was just pure genius, and so we will eventually have it on its own individual podcast. It'll probably just take us another 5 hours and 15 minutes worth of uh, hard, gritty work to figure it out.
If you're wondering who we are, by the way, Mr. Opinionated is also on YouTube, does YouTube content, also streams on YouTube and streams on Twitch. Mr. underscore opinionated, and it's just Mr. Opinionated on YouTube. I'm simply underscore streams on Twitch and just simply on YouTube. So you can find us on those social links if you're wondering.
Also, Simply has just started on YouTube, so it'll be absolutely epic if anyone does listen to this. Do give him the support because he's quite experienced with the Twitch, but he's like a little baby lamb on the YouTube at the moment. So
Yeah, so don't hate me in the comments. But yeah, Mr. Opinionated had a topic you wanted to talk about today. Was it nostalgia?
It is. Because when we were discussing about how, like you said, how long I've been on YouTube and had a reputation, it reminded me of uh, it reminded me of like the nostalgia of how to edit videos and stuff. And then that kind
Yeah.
of got me onto the whole gaming genre. And recently, when we did talk about this gave me a massive nostalgia to play Doom because Doom is probably one of the franchises of my era of the PlayStation 1 because I got Doom on PlayStation 1. It was probably one of my favorite franchises of all time until this day is. So I actually started replaying that on Twitch and it gave me a sense of like sometimes no matter how much a game has aged or no matter how much it's an like it's like a pop culture thing or no one gives a shit about it, like you'll always have fond memories of that game, and if it was on your lap right now, chances are you'll be playing it. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah, I
I
get that.
think everyone's got that. I think everyone who's ever picked up a game has felt like that.
So do you know, weird thing is, I'd never played Doom. This is complete.
You'd never played Doom.
The only Doom I've ever, like, please don't shoot me, but the only Doom I've ever played is Doom Eternal, which apparently is the worst one, and I played it for like 2 to 3 hours because someone asked me to stream it on Twitch as like a channel redemption thing.
Doom
Um,
what? What Doom?
Doom Eternal. It's like, is it the newer one that
That's the
people
newest one.
people don't like it? Apparently it's really bad. I don't know. The only
Well,
reason I
they don't know
stopped
what they're talking about.
the, the only reason, again, I barely know about the game. I found the game very fast paced. The only reason I stopped streaming it is because I found it very difficult to concentrate on chat and the game at the same time because it's so fast paced. And
Mm,
I like to be able to pause and talk to people and stuff. That's why
mm.
we decided to do this because we like to have a chat. But I just found it's very, very hectic and it was a bit too much for me. Hence why, like, I mean, when I was growing up, the PS1, I was mainly like Mortal Kombat and wrestling games, weird enough. But that's all I really ever seem to remember playing was just lots of Mortal Kombat and lots of wrestling games. I
Right,
don't
are
know.
we talking Sega Genesis realm of
Well,
Mortal
all of
Kombat?
them. So I had like the massive Mortal Kombat. I think it was nine Mortal Kombat 9. The massive like Sega Mega Drive cartridge. But then I got
Jesus, yeah.
but then I got them on the 2 disc one that you get on the PS1 as well. It's got like 20 million characters. with all the baby bounties and the pop. Do you remember the Pop Tart guy? He just goes whoopsie every time you uppercut someone. It's brilliant. I loved it. So that was a massive thing of my get. And then I think what was it? PS2 it was like Resi 4 and Ratchet and Clank when I got PS2.
Mm, mm.
Do you remember? Do you know what? One of my fondest memories because as a kid, because we didn't have a lot of money, we used to have to wait like 3 or 4 years to get like the next console, whereas everyone would have had it for ages. So like it was a good 2 years that the PS2 had been out, and I had seen my friends have it. Like I remember going to my mate's house, and he was playing the Spider-Man the movie game on PS2, and I was like in crazy awe of this game, like how good the graphics were. Because I've been left on the PS2 with a square head for like the last 15 years or whatever. So last 15 years, he says I was like 9 or whatever it was. But yeah, so I remember when I first played like Ratchet and Clank on the PS because I think I got Crazy Taxi, the first Ratchet and Clank, and it was like the Spider-Man movie of the game. I got it with the PS2 it was like a bundle thing.
Yeah.
And I was so obsessed with like, the graphics. The jump in graphics from like the PS1 to the PS2 was insane.
That was the true like if you was in that genre you would know that was the true step up in graphic design because like I think that's the reason why the PS2 got sold so much,
Did you know
that was the next big step.
Did you know I found something out? Literally only like last week, and I didn't notice it for the entire time I've been playing PlayStations or whatever. That the little loading screen squares represented the amount of memory in that game, how far you got with it, and you had one for each individual game that you had on a memory card.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that. That's crazy. It really took me. Your mind is completely blown by the most like stupid of like knowledge someone comes across and tells you. I just looked. I found one like a recommended video on YouTube. So, oh my god! How did I never know that? Like, that's crazy. But,
Did you know? Did you know that the PS2 is the most sold console of all time?
I did, yeah. Aren't they still making them still because people want them so much, or like, didn't they just stop or something like that? I remember hearing about something about.
Well, I know like years ago they stopped the online service because there was technically an online service on PS2. Funny enough,
Yeah,
it was only like it was in the late part of its life cycle. But yeah, and even then people got upset. I'm just like, well, how am I supposed to play Sonic 2 All Stars Edition?
Online, no longer going to play Sonic 7 with me or whatever it is. I don't know.
Because Ratchet and Clank 3, funny enough, had an online multiplayer.
See, I played it up to Gladiator on the PS2, and then I played the PSP version, which was another massive step up for me, going from PlayStation 2 to a PSP. Oh my god, I can walk around with a PS2. Jesus Christ. Do you know the first two games I got on the PSP? I got Ratchet and Clank, whatever one it was called. I forget what it was called. And I got Manhunt 2. And I fucking loved Manhunt. So to play the second one, it was like, oh, it was banned for years. I feel so naughty playing this. Do you know?
There was a lot of games. The best thing about the PSP, because I still have my PSP, and I used to have a bit of game collection, but the only one I've got is the original Final Fantasy. But I've also got Final Fantasy 9 on there, and it was dude. Like sometimes when you go to a person's house and if they fall asleep early or they're playing a game, so while you're talking, you're just playing another game while they're playing a game.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and it's great because you're still interacting with each other. You're just occupied, and then they say men can't multitask. It's bullshit. The difference is that we'll multitask with something that we like.
Do you know,
That's the difference.
I do that often. I literally join parties with my friends most nights, and half the time don't even talk to them. It's just the fact that like you'll randomly have a chat or you'll see something funny when you're playing a game. Like you said, I'll be in like a party with 4 people. We'll all be playing different games. So we'll just be chatting about random only every now and again. And then someone like a friend of a friend will join, and they'll be like, "Why is no one talking in here? It's really really awkward." It's like it's not awkward for us because like we're just chilling. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah, exactly. It's like when we was playing Minecraft like last week, wasn't it? Like
yeah,
there was a lot of time where people were just building their houses. We're all together, and now and again we did talk, but most of the time we were all silent because we're just doing our jam, and then we wanted to interact when we wanted to interact. Like, does anyone need to do these blocks? And everyone's like, yeah. Do you want me to go to the network? Yeah. And then we'll talk random shit, and then we'll go silent. And it's like, it's a lot of people have to keep talking to feel like I don't know if it's a short attention span thing, but like some people just don't realize it's just nice to have a surrounding of people but it doesn't mean you have to consistently.
You don't have to be loud 24/7. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get that. Like, was it the other day when we was on one of your newer maps, the community one, and one of your friends said no one's talking. It's really weird, and you were just like, yeah, they're just busy doing stuff. Like, it's fine. Like, no one needs to be talking all the time. Like, but yeah, I get that. So that Ratchet and Clank. Thinking about it, if I think about all the games. If I had to pick like 3 games that described my childhood, it would probably be Mortal Kombat, Ratchet and Clank, and probably Resident Evil, because I played the crap out of Resident Evil 4 on the PS2. And I remember getting it on the Wii as well. Do you remember the Wii when the Wii was a thing?
Where like even your grandmother had it because it was just like in every family household.
Everyone's like, "Oh my god, it's exercise," but not really. Like,
but not you swing your arms about like
I'm doing bowling.
Care.
This is an exercise.
We're spending our money well, boys.
I remember going over to a friend's house, and there's nothing quite like seeing a 45-year-old man just get up to bowl in the middle of the living room, and it's just like you've got 2 inches of space. Yeah.
The funny thing you say that though, is because Ratchet and Clank to me, is one of my favorite genres in the PS1. I mean, sorry, not the PS1, the PS2 and the PS3 genre, because I have. And I shit you not, Adam, I will screenshot the collection I've got of Ratchet and Clank games. It's insane. Ratchet and Clank 1 is one of my favourite games of all time, funny enough.
Yeah, I did love that one.
2 perfected it, but I would say that is the perfect sequel in any platformer game. However, I will also say it's just got a slightly weaker story, but you can't really top the first Ratchet and Clank story.
No, my mind was blown by the first one.
Yeah, but mate, it just got better from there. Like the second and third one were great, and then you got Dreadlock, which is completely different, which was pretty. It's still good, but it's not like the traditional Ratchet and Clank. And then further ones down the road, and then they fucked it up with the reboot. But yeah, we don't talk about that. But yeah, as you said, like Ratchet and Clank on PS2, like after they made the Spyro the Dragon games on PS1.
Yeah, I did play a lot of Spyro, to be fair.
That jump though from Spyro, which was a fucking great trilogy, to Ratchet and Clank. Insomniac Games, man, back in the day, they made some mind blowing stuff. They did, honestly to God. But yeah, Ratchet and Clank is probably one of my biggest nostalgias. Is my biggest nostalgia on PS2 wise, anyway. I would definitely agree.
I think it is definitely probably mine as well, because I can't think of all the other stuff that came out, like, but I probably played that the most out of everything, I think, other than probably Resi 4, which I got stuck on. I don't know if you ever did this with games back when you were younger. Did you ever like get stuck on something and just never play the game again because you just couldn't be bothered? And then you came back.
I still do it. I still do it.
And you come back to that same game, like when you're like 10 years later on, you're like, this wasn't even hard. Why did I just completely give up on this game? Like, I remember absolutely begging my parents to get Resi 4 for like a good solid 6 months, right? A good solid 6 months. I was like, I need it in my life. It's my life. Do you know what I mean? Super pathetic. Because like, as a child, you're just like you've always wanted it. Everything's always you've always wanted it. It's hilarious. Makes fun of my daughters now. She's like, I really want it. It's my whole life. I've got to have it right now. It's like, don't you play it and just chucks it away. It's like, what the hell? But I remember getting to Resi 4, finally playing it for like a few hours, and then getting to the bit where the blind gladiator got a Wolverine guy, where you have to hit the bells, and he like tries to slice you up. And for some reason, I just couldn't figure it out in my young head. So I just completely never played the game again until I was like 25. And I was like, this isn't even hard. So what's going on? Why did I just never play this game again?
I had a similar experience with a PS2 game. I do believe it was on PS2. Yeah, I think it was on PS2. It could have been PS3. Anyway. And it was called... Have you heard of Star Wars Bounty Hunter?
I've heard of it. I've never played it, but I know what you're on about.
Yeah, so you play as Jango Fett, right? And you do like these like in-between missions. Apparently this is based before Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones. And basically you play as Jango Fett. And it was really a good game, but there was this one level, and it was about a prison. And you had to like escort someone out of this prison. but I always found it like so impossible. Like it was literally
Yeah,
impossible. I saw it on the game store on the PS4 recently, and I was so tempted to buy it just to beat that level,
you should do
just
it.
for this.
Yeah,
I am thinking
you
about
should
it.
vindicate your younger self. Be the champion of your own dreams.
I was thinking it's like I owe younger me to get this game.
You
I
could
owe
do it for
younger
young
me.
Mike.
You are weak, Jedi.
Speaking of Star Wars, since we've randomly gone into Star Wars games, The Force Unleashed. How nuts is that game? Why is that not canon? Like this counts as
It,
nostalgia, right? I think.
it should be canon considering the fact that there is a giant chunk of history because Emperor Palpatine ruled the galaxy for 40 years. 40 years. A bad guy was winning for 40 years. And people don't realize this because obviously people are just like, oh, Darth Vader, Jedi, do. But the people that forget that it's a rebellion versus an empire. The Jedi stuff is just like, the spice in the
Well,
mixture.
they all died pretty much at the start of it, didn't they? Really? That's when Anakin turned Darth Vader, and that's when it like really kicked off. They'd already mostly been killed by him.
Yeah. I mean, when I say Jedi, I probably just mean Skywalker family
Oh,
in
okay.
that regard. In that regard anyway. But yeah, it's but I do agree with you. The Force Unleashed is such a good like little like thing that's happening in between episode 3 and episode 4. They're like that massive gap. There's a huge gap. That's why they've got all these comics and stuff to fill in that gap. There's so many Darth Vader comic books, dude.
Oh no,
Honestly.
I've read a few of them, or if I've not been able to get copies of them, there's someone on YouTube that reads the whole comic throughout to you with the artwork involved. It's
Yeah.
brilliant. Like, it talks about how he makes his new lightsaber and he makes his new suit upgrades. Then he even has dreams of him going back and turning on Palpatine, and then he realizes it's all a dream in his head. Oh, there's so much cool stuff to it that they really should have included in the films, and I hope that they make some sort of Netflix or Amazon Prime, like Mandalorian style series out of it, because I know they're
Mm.
doing the Oksana storyline on her. She's got her own show coming out, so hopefully that goes into bit into it. Because I know that like Rebels is canon, isn't it now? Rebels and as Clone Wars, like the animated series, is classed as
Yeah.
canon. Um,
That's classic canon.
so they could turn that into like a real life thing. Because I know that Adrian Christensen's coming back to play in the is it this Obi-Wan Kenobi film? Is it? I think he's coming back to play in. I think I'm a bit being announced a couple of week or something like that. I'm pretty sure they said it was. Yeah, he definitely was. It was announced that he's coming back to play as Darth Vader in that. So they said that we're going to see some parts that weren't in the older films. So hopefully there's some like interesting interactions between them there. Because I do want to see more like Anakin fight Darth Vader fight scenes because like with like the updated technology and stuff. Because like you didn't really see much of it in the old, like the original three, because obviously the first two films he didn't even plan on Darth Vader being Anakin until the third film. I don't know if you knew.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. He didn't think about putting him as the dad
yeah.
at some point.
It
Yeah.
was just some guy walking around in a black suit, chilling. Like, yeah, I'm going to kill people. Cool. Um, it's just like that's mad, isn't it? You think about how iconic that is as a character, and he was just like, nah, third film, sure, whatever. It's going to be his dad. And like, if he decided, nah, no, it's not going to be his dad, it would have changed so many people's lives. Considering how many people are like obsessed with Star Wars, and I mean, I didn't even know this that they have fencing tournaments with lightsabers. Did you know that? That's
No,
an actual thing.
I did not know that. No, I didn't.
It's crazy. Yeah, they have like full-on championship tournaments for fencing, and they use lightsabers. It's crazy.
What the fuck?
I mean, for Christ's sake, there's a religion. There's a Jedi religion now, isn't there? Like there has been for years.
Oh god, yeah, that culture's been going on for donkeys now, dude.
It's
Yeah.
like imagine if he decided, nah, it's just going to be some android with a lightsaber. It would have
Well,
changed everyone's opinion on Star Wars probably, and it wouldn't have been nowhere near as popular as it was. It's quite
mm.
crazy, really.
That's why I feel sorry for the prequels of episode 1, 2, 3, because no matter how much like, because Darth Vader is one of those characters in the originals where you think, oh, his backstory is going to be really dark and gritty, and he's not and then you come up with this kid that just magically has these
midichlorians.
Yeah, and 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 he's like, oh, this kid doesn't have a dad. Yeah,
he's the Mary Sue, isn't he? Like Harry Potter is. He's just magical. Why? Reasons.
Yeah, because reasons. Yeah, he's basically like Jesus.
He's just Jesus. Yeah, he's the single player in a campaign. He can't die because plot armor.
The Force had so much force it impregnated a woman on Tatooine.
Yeah. Well, they didn't they say that according to the comics, Palpatine was meant to have created him in her womb through dark side magic or some alchemy or something.
Yeah, because something about Plagueis and which was Palpatine's master. Said something about manipulating something to create or something like that.
Manipulating the midichlorians in her stomach to make baby Jesus with a lightsaber. Yeah.
Yeah. So Force juices happen.
My dark juices will make Jesus come out of you, and he'll be the best Quidditch player of all time.
Well, at least Harry had a mom and dad. It's just that they died, quite like brutally. But that's the thing. Like, a lot of people had high expectations, and they were just met with. It was going to be this. No one was going to be happy because no one's going to be happy about anything. How a Genesis or an origin story starts off.
I mean, if you just take the gap in which the first three were made to this one. So many, like you said, so many people are kind of used to the original three, and people know by that point that he didn't mean for Darth Vader to be anybody. So them just going, "Oh, is this guy?" and they're like, "No," like, they're not just going to take his word, even though it was George Lucas that made the prequels, the guy who bloody wrote the thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, you think if the person who created the original thing wants to add something else to it later on, he should be allowed to, as it's his work. But people are like, no, that's a religion now. Shut off.
Yeah, this is our thing. I think, like, the way I see it is George Lucas actually. I feel like he is one of those people that is generally not that great at storytelling, but he just accidentally created a masterpiece. A lot of opinions, yeah, he just accidentally made a masterpiece with the original.
I mean, if anyone would like to counter argument that, we referred to you 5 minutes ago when we told you that it's only the third film that he decided Darth Vader was actually going to be Anakin Skywalker. So he clearly woke up one night and went, you know what? It's a good idea, that is.
I'm gonna write this down.
2 movies in,
you can tell how inconsistent he is as well. You can tell how inconsistent he is because he keeps on adding stuff to the original stuff.
Yeah, he's probably maybe I should put an ending to this trilogy before I actually make the end of the trilogy.
yeah. Like, originally, Jabba the Hutt was this fat guy in, like, he was a human, but he was obese. But then, and this was the original. We're talking like the one that was released in cinema back in 19 whatever.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh, I want that guy to be a slug creature now. And he was a slug creature in Return of the Jedi. And it's like, what?
Have you watched The Mandalorian, like both seasons?
I have actually not watched The Mandalorian at all.
Okay, so I had a comment about what you were just talking about Jabba, but I can't actually talk about it, ruining it for people. But there's a thing right at the end of season 2 to discuss about that. So when you've watched both seasons, we can talk about that bit then.
Okay. I only really have one question about The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Where's it set in the timeline?
I think it's after the films. I think. Is it after the films? I forget. Or was it in between? Do you know
Is it after Return of the Jedi?
I can't even remember because you're talking a few months ago since I've watched it now. Because I just been watched it all in like 4 days. I can't remember. I have to Google that one. people that are interested, and yourself. I can't remember. I just remember because I didn't really, because I'm not like a huge Star Wars fan. Like I know a fair bit about Star Wars, just because if I tend to get interested in a topic, I tend to want to learn as much about that topic as I can. So I know a fair bit about it, but I wouldn't call myself a fanboy. Like I can take it or leave it with Star Wars content, to be honest. But The Mandalorian, I found was a very good like bounty hunter TV program. If you had nothing to do with Star Wars, like if the word Star Wars wasn't in there, it's just a very good bounty hunter film because it's very gritty. Um, Plus, it's brilliantly shot. Like the way the film that is amazing, and especially the second season was wicked. Like because I'm assuming you've seen the new trilogy, the crappy films that no one talks about. Um,
I watched episode 7 and I thought, oh, this is good. It's just a shame that it's basically a recreation of the 4th film.
yeah,
And then I watched the 8th film and I remember coming out of the cinema going, oh, that's good. But the more I
hang
thought
on,
about it,
you liked
the
the film?
no. This is the thing. The thing is, the more I thought about it, the more I actually didn't like it. And now, after watching it, after like I give you about 5 hours between that time, I think it was just the fact I was absorbing the information.
Yeah,
And then I realized, oh my God, that was the worst Star Wars film I've ever watched in my life.
it's the worst film I've watched
Yeah,
in general, pretty much. Why
yeah.
why would
I hate
why would
episode
Luke
8.
Skywalker chuck away his father's lightsaber with no question? Just chucks it off the mountain, and you're like, what? Like, knowing
Yeah.
what he
We're
knows.
going to go into spoiler territory if you
Oh,
guys
come on.
haven't
If you
watched
haven't
it
seen
yet.
that film by now, I mean, for a
Yeah.
start, you're not missing anything anyway. Apparently, they're talking about, I don't know if you know this, recanonizing the whole 3 last films and remaking the last 3 films again and then making those 3 films legend, like not
And
even lore, putting it as a legends thing, like a what if series kind of thing, like Marvel's doing.
the non-canon, because the Star Wars Legends that was officially was canon, but now it's non-canon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they're thinking of doing that with the last 3 films and then redoing the last 3 films again. I don't know whether they're actually going to do it or not because money, but they probably
Yeah,
will.
it's
Uh,
because of Disney, dude. It's because of Disney.
yeah,
Disney have pumped it out. It's like what Xbox did with the Halo series. They
I
kept
mean,
milking it until the cow was dry.
oh, did you talk? We go quick before we go on to that. Um, because the whole Halo thing. I mean, I've never been a Halo fan anyway. Again, don't shoot me. But like, when they released the Xbox Series, Xbox 360 No Scope, Dolphin Dive console, whatever it's called. Um, who knows this time? The names get longer and longer. I mean, Jesus Christ! But and they released the Halo like gameplay with it. Did you see how bad the graphics were on that game? To the point where they shelved the game for like another year. Like, it's kind of embarrassing. But anyway, we won't get into Halo because that's a whole other thing.
That's the whole different kettle of fish. Yeah.
How I think that's probably a separate podcast talking about why games should be allowed to be released before they're actually ready, and then they're charging you for max difficulty.
Cyberpunk.
Just don't even go. That's definitely a different podcast. We're not doing that now. I've got hours to talk about that. That's another thing. We're talking about nostalgia. Yeah. So Mandalorian is very good. Apparently, the last episode in season 2 fixes all of the problems that the third film, like the last trilogy, did. So if you watched, what's the is it episode 9 or 10? The original 3. What's the last one?
Episode 6.
Episode 6. So apparently, if you watch episode 6 and then go and watch the Mandalorian series 1 and 2, it makes perfect sense. Where
Oh, okay.
yes, that's it. Now it's after that episode. That's from I remember now. I remember hearing about it. Because it explains what happens to Luke after Vader dies.
Okay. So after the Battle of Endor.
Yeah, you apparently find out. Well, I say apparently, I've watched it. You do find out what happens to him and what it becomes of him and everything else, and it explains who hashtag Baby Yoda is, even though he's not called Baby Yoda. But if you don't know that by now, you should read it.
Yeah, I had a feeling that wasn't Yoda. That's why I thought when I originally saw I'm talking about the Genesis, when I saw the first ever trailer, like season 1,
Yeah.
I initially thought it was before everything, like before all the films. That's what my interpretation was, because obviously Yoda's species, if you don't know the ins and out of the lore, there's only been 2 species of Yoda.
Yeah, it's him and Yaddle, isn't it? Because they're not actually
Yeah,
they haven't technically come out as canon and said what his species is either, which is the
nah.
weird thing. Which you think they would have by now. Just make something up, George. Wake up one day. Oh, Anakin's his dad. Yeah, okay. Let's call them goblet monsters, and that's it. He's a goblet monster. All right, okay.
Goblin midget. Yeah, we don't know. He's just really powerful and he's just wise. We don't know where he came from. Fucking
All
from.
I know is he can do a 360 no scope dolphin dive while flicking a lightsaber around.
GG easy.
Need, need, needs a walking stick, yet can do backflips. Logic. Hello.
Yeah. Ta-da!
Can
Help me,
barely can
Force.
barely
Help me.
struggle to hold himself up unless with a walking stick, but he can levitate a massive pipe 10 times his weight and be completely fine. Sure makes sense. It's like, so is he faking the walking stick or does he actually need it 50% of the time? Like, what is
He
it?
just does it. He does it for benefits, mate. He does it for
Does it for that Yaddle benefits? Yeah.
Yaddle benefits,
It's the name of his insurance company, Yaddle.
And
Yaddle?
if you disagree with him, like
Yaddle.
if you disagree with him, it's like, oh, it's because I'm green, isn't it? Like
Oh, doing the race car to see. Okay. Well, hang on, we don't even know what yours is. Yes, I'm a goblin monster. Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Justice for Yoda.
isn't that right, George? Yeah. Who's your father? No, I'm not on about Anakin. What Yoda? George, you've lost it. Nutter.
What's that, Frogman? Walking stick. Okay.
Palpatine's alive. Why? Because I had a dream. Okay, sure, let's do that too. 3 films. What? Really? 3 films. We're going to get 3 films out of that. Okay. That's the one thing that did annoy me with Star Wars. We really need to get off the topic of Star Wars, but because we've been talking about it for 20 solid minutes. But the one last thing I will say about Star Wars is how it annoyed me how you said how Disney's changed things. How if you look at in the first 3 films, Luke lost his hand, and a guy was like, there were people's heads off and all sorts of stuff, and getting stabbed through the chest. And in the third, that's the recent trilogy. A guy can use a lightsaber who isn't force sensitive, and he gets hit by a lightsaber, and it cuts his leather jacket a little bit. This is a plasma sword that can cut through steel and titanium, and it hits this leather jacket, and he got a bit of a scratch. It's like, come on.
I bend the wheels of what can get cut and not cut.
Lord, consistency is key. You can cut a guy's hand off, but that leather jacket's got +3 strength. You can get no weight again through that leather jacket. Jesus Christ! Like, come on. Well, yeah, it just boggles me, that does. But are you? I don't. I never actually. I don't think we've spoken about this. But are you much of a horror fan of like games? You had to play. Have you played Silent Hills and stuff? Because they're quite old.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
I played the original Silent Hill to the point where I couldn't even get out of the part where, when that police officer, I can't remember her name, but
Officer Jenny. Oh, that's Pokemon. Never mind.
wrong one, wrong franchise. She gives you the gun, doesn't she? And then you're in that like cafeteria. And then you go outside, and then you get chased by this winged demon, and you're supposed to go through the snow. That was my first ever experience with Silent Hill, because I didn't know what the fuck was going on, so I gave up when I was little. And then I experienced it a little bit more, got to a certain point, and obviously I was at a brick wall. Silent Hill 2 was probably the one game that I enjoyed the most out of the Silent Hill series, but there's a lot of horror games I've played. And I do love horror games. One recently that stuck in my mind, Soma. I think it's Soma.
Is that actually a horror game? Because people keep telling me to play this, and it doesn't look like a horror game.
It's basically like a lighter Amnesia. It's basically kind of like if you mixed Amnesia with Bioshock.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like it has horror elements. And I made a YouTube stream of this, and it's really good. It's really gripping. Would I say it's like the best thing? No, it's not the best thing, but it's definitely gripping it, and it's very atmospheric. I think if you personally played that on your channel, dude, you'd enjoy it. I think you would enjoy it because there's a lot of it involves kind of like choices. A choice a person needs to make, and how you have to sometimes, for the greater good of something, For the greater good of something, sacrifices must be made. It kind of gives off that kind of feel.
Oh, okay, yeah. I like karma based games. That's kind of cool. That's why I like Fallout so much. Well, the original, the actual single players, because especially three, because it had the karma system, which was cool, and it had like different endings depending on how much of a knob you were.
It really gives you a perspective of the fact is that sometimes you have to tell people a certain thing, even though, because like like how you say, like, I don't know, I'll give you an example. So basically, it was just like, oh, like, here's a great example. Have you ever watched Armageddon?
Yes.
So how, again, spoilers, sorry. You know how Bruce Willis, like, they do straws and someone has to stay on the meteor to explode it. So
Yeah.
someone has to die.
Yeah.
Someone has to die
But it's for the
to
greater
save
good
the
again.
world.
Yeah.
For the greater good. It's think of that. Think of that kind of scenario that's going through it. There's such a great. I don't want to say any more without spoiling it, but there's a great part in it where it's like that, and it's so good. You have to play it. Now that the more I think about it, the more I actually highly recommend it. In fact, no, you should definitely play it on your channel, Simply. 100%. Go and check out Simply on Twitch, by the way.
Which is simply underscore screams streams. I can't even English. I do scream a lot. That's true. I probably should change it to that instead. But
Simply screams.
simply scream.
So, it's still simply underscore sarcasm, isn't it?
No, it's simply underscore streams now because we're changing it to streams because I was trying to be more professional and then I played Outlast 2 and then he died of a heart attack. Because that game is far too graphic for TV, let alone streaming.
I am planning playing more horror games in the future, but I have played a shit ton of horror games, dude. Like, I would say, would you say Resident Evil is a horror game?
This is the thing, right? Okay, so when someone, because I've been like classed as a horror channel, and I didn't intentionally start out to try and be a Twitch horror streamer. I was just playing games that I liked, and then I happened to play. Was it Amnesia or something? I can't remember what it was now. Oh no, I played this really random indie horror game called Welcome to Hamwell. It's a really bad. It's like $4 and it's crap. Like it's jump scares and it's like really bad graphics. It's like Minecraft and then they took the ring girl in there. I'm not even joking. It's really terrible. But it was hilarious because people just found it funny because it was just cheap horror, like cheap jump scares and chase scenes for the sake of it. So it was just funny to play. And then I kind of just spiraled out of there and ended up playing loads more horror games. And then so when I check out other, I'm using brackets, horror streamers, I go and check out their channel to see, what games they're playing that I might have missed because there's obviously quite a lot of horrors I haven't played yet out there. Mainly because I don't have PC and a lot of the good ones are on PC. But you'll get the odd few that come across. Like I hadn't played Outlast 2. I totally forgot about Outlast 2. And a lot of people are playing Resident Evil because they think it's a horror game. I don't class Resident Evil as a horror game. I class it as an action thriller, really. It's like more of an action horror. If you're going to use the word, I wouldn't even use the word horror because to me, a horror, you're literally scared all the time playing it. You're worried about what's going to happen around the corner. You're actively nervous. Do you know what I mean?
I think they got actively less scary. I would say Resident Evil 1 and the GameCube remake is a survival horror game. I would argue that the first three are survival horrors.
Yeah, because if you played it now, you probably wouldn't be as scared.
Yeah, like for example, I would be more scared of the Resident Evil 3 original than I am of the Resident Evil 3 remake.
Well, we don't talk about the Resident 3 remake because that was a pile of crap.
That was absolute garbage. Yes,
this is also another topic. I'm going to bring this up in a future podcast when we're talking about games not being finished. Don't charge full price for a game that is a quarter of the one you made before and then chuck in some free crappy online mode because it just doesn't add up to scratch. Like it's not worth the money that you charged for it. Anyway.
No, I 100% agree. I was about to say, yeah, the only reason they charged full price is because they added Resident Evil Resistance.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a different topic for a different time because, yes. But add that to the Halo.
There's a list, Cyberpunk, there's tons. I mean, Bethesda's guilty of nearly everything under the sun. Talk about Fallout 76 for days, but Jesus, because as someone who lives on the game, I could talk about the problems for that we're still having now, like 2 years later. But like you said, future podcast. But
Mhm.
I forgot what you were saying now beforehand.
The fact that what defines a horror.
Oh, right, yeah. So, right, when I was recently playing Visage, I did when I was doing one of the second chapters. I think it's called Lucy's chapter. I have never got goosebumps from playing a horror game. I don't know if you've ever got goosebumps because you've been that terrified, but because I have a really weird phobia, it triggered my phobia at the time. Don't judge me. It's mannequins. I have a mannequin phobia. I don't know why. I just do. It's probably a childhood thing. Um, I think because as I walked in when I was younger, I walked in on my parents watching some horror film and it had mannequins involved. So it was like a psychological thing. Um, then played Condemned 2 later on in my younger years, and it's just full of walking mannequins that try to murder you. So that probably doesn't help the case. But but so it triggered, and there's like a little girl that looks like the girl from The Ring, and she's in her bedroom, and she gets snatched by this grown, life-size 6 foot doll that's dressed like a mannequin, just snatches her into her bedroom, and you hear her screaming and stuff, and it freaked me out. Like I was completely on stream, just shaking and got goosebumps, and was like, when you're frozen still because you're scared of something. I was like that, and I've never had that pain again. That to me is horror because you're horrified about what's going on, or the for Outlast 2, for instance. I was horrified at the scenes I was watching because it was too graphic, like it was uncomfortably graphic to watch. That to me is what like a horror is, where you're just scared. You're actually actively scared to play the game. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, you're wanting to progress in it because you're enjoying it in some sick way. I don't know. That's like a weird thing with me. But
That's the thing. When it comes to the horror genre, I think it's been. I wouldn't say it's been it's watered down in a sense. It's more to the yeah. I would say there's so many now that technology has gotten to a thing, and especially with like streams or Steam on PC, people just pump out all sorts of indie horror games. And they're just like, oh, this is a horror game. This is a horror game. This is a horror game. And they last for like 30 minutes. They do what they do best.
yeah,
There's a defined difference between a good horror game and a cheap jump scare horror game. I mean, any person can do a jump scare horror game. Like any person.
You took some dodgy noises in there. You do random cheap jump scares, and you've got yourself a cheap $10 horror game. But I totally agree. The problem I find with what you're talking about is very similar to how ever since the PT, if people don't know, Silent Hills was getting a rebrand was it 4 years ago? It's a while ago now.
Probably longer than that. Probably I'd say it's like 6 years.
Kojima released a demo for Silent. They were going to rebrand Silent Hill as Silent Hills. They had the actor from what was his name? Walking Dead. What's his name? He plays the guy in that now. He was going to be the lead character.
Norman Reedus sort of thing.
Yeah. So he was going to be the main character, and it was a terrifying demo. Like that was a horror game. You were scared to go around the corner. It had brilliant puzzles, and even though it was a demo, it was like a half-an-hour demo or whatever. It was only available on PlayStation, but it was fantastic to the point where when they cancelled it, because the company that was making it had like artistic styles, they went in different directions, and they cut the project off, kind of thing, legally. So they didn't make it in the end. To the point where, because the demo was so good, people were selling the PlayStations with the demo on for like thousands on eBay because people wanted to play the demo because it was amazing.
Yeah, because they became literally limited edition PlayStations.
Yeah, because this new horror game that had come out, even though it hadn't even come out, this new horror demo, I should say, which is what PT stands for, it's this player tester game. That's why they called it PT. So if you ever hear people randomly say, "Oh, have you tried PT demo?" A PT, they're talking about the PT play testable demo for Silent Hills is what they're on about, which you won't be able to find, by the way, but you can probably find it on YouTube. It became that much of like a thing that people just wanted to have more of because they knew that they couldn't have more of it, and it was so amazingly well done that you see 90% of horror games now copy the art style, which in a way is a good thing in a way because then we've sort of getting PT. Like I said, when I recently played Visage, that a good 90% of that game was stolen from PT. If you look at what they've got in it, like the setting of the house, the jump scares, the noise, the way they use the noises, the phone calls at certain times, like there was so much to it that as I was playing, I was just like, this is PT. like completely. And I've had that experience like 4 times playing horror games in the last like couple of
Hmm.
years. Even that crappy Welcome to Hamwell game stole elements from PT. I mean, the graphics were nowhere near. Let's get that correct. The graphics were terrible, but they stole like um, when you looked down the corridor in PT and you saw your wife like standing there shaking and she was like graphically in and out of the room. They stole that scene in that game, and it's used over and over again. Oh, Infliction. Infliction's another brilliant one I played, which is very PT like. It's very similar to Visage as well, but that was all about your wife and someone had murdered him, and they stole so much from PT to the point. I remember playing it as well, going, "How are these guys not been sued for copying that demo?" Because it was like so similar. You'd be like, "I'm literally just playing this demo again," which is brilliant because you was getting more content. But like you said, it's so easy for them to copy now because they have a template to go off for new horror games. They just slap it on everything, and it's making it not a special thing anymore. Do you know what I mean? I'm sick of seeing PT copies. Do you know what I mean? I want someone to come up with something new.
This is the reason why, and I know a lot of people are gonna fight me for this comment. This is why I don't get Friday Nights at Freddy's.
No, I don't. I really don't find it interesting
I
at all.
don't get it.
Yeah, I don't understand the fascination with standing watching a camera waiting to be murdered. Is what it looks like.
Yeah,
Because when you boil down that game, it's just cheap jump scares. That's all it is.
yeah.
And it's the thing is, it's not even clever jump scares
It's
because
not even clever. No,
because
it's boring.
you're literally you know it's going to happen because that's why you're playing the game and you're waiting for yourself to be jump scared. So you're actively knowing that it's such a stupid concept. I really don't like the game. I've never even played them. I'd seen them on YouTube and I was like, no, I'm not playing that. It looks dumb. And they've done really
The only reason they got famous is because, like, this is my issue with indie games. They only get popular when big streamers play them, and then they become the new trending shit. Like Five Nights, the only thing that's ever came out good out of Five Nights at Freddy's is the Tombstone remixes of some of the songs. Like I listened to them and I was like, yeah, this is actually a good song because actually not because it's Five Nights at Freddy's,
you just like the
it's
song.
because
Yeah,
it's a good song.
yeah.
Yeah, like legit.
No, yeah, I do
Mad.
agree. That's one of the games I refuse to touch because as a horror streamer, you often get people go to you, oh, have you tried Five Nights at Freddy's? It's really scary. And I'm going, no, it isn't. I've literally watched people play the whole game through on YouTube. People have like full playthroughs, and it's just like this is just jump scare after jump scare after jump scare. There's nothing different in it. You're sitting in a bedroom on a bed, or you're sitting watching a camera at work, or you're sitting wherever, and you've got a flashlight or cameras or whatever, and you're waiting to what to eventually be killed anyway by a jump scare. It's like okay, I don't get it to be honest.
Yeah, I don't either. I understand the concept of fast management, and that's fine. Like fast managing, fast paced games are fine because obviously the more you play, the thing it is. But it's just like the law is the thing that pisses me off. People literally they literally grasped to find a law. They were so desperate to find a law just to keep consistency, and then even the creator was probably like, really? This got famous because of what? All right, I'll create a law then just to keep this fucking bandwagon going, and it fucking worked. Like what? But yeah,
Well, it's a weird one, isn't
moving
it?
on.
That happens a lot, doesn't it? With you'll get that random game that people are really into. I mean, Among Us is the game at the minute, has been for a while, and even that's starting to go off a bit now. But that's a similar sort of thing. I mean, that game had been out for like 2 years, and then one streamer played it, and it became really popular. So
Mm.
it's just how gaming works nowadays, isn't it? With streaming and stuff, that's kind of how they make their money.
That's why Among Us was like, for example, that shit was been out for 2 years, and
Yeah,
then a Brazilian and an Austrian streamer did it, expanded, and as soon as it hit the mainstream with all like European and America, it fucking blew up. That's why they stopped making Among Us 2 because the original game got so much, so they were like, oh, we'll update this then instead of making a brand new IP.
that makes sense. Isn't it? If you're
Uh,
making money from it, you might as well carry on.
yeah. Oh, we're not dispute and further. I can't stress this enough. We're not shitting on the
Oh no,
fact that a game eventually gets successful
no. We
because
actually play Among Us weekly. I actually enjoy it, but
yeah,
we're
we're
just
not we're not,
yeah.
we're not shitting on that practice, but it's just more to the fact that if this only happened a few years, well, like This would never have happened about 6 years ago.
Yeah, well, it's the internet, isn't it? I suppose that's how it works. Because in terms of sharing a game to your friends in general that you liked, like back in the days of when we had PS1, if I had, if we weren't neighbours and we weren't friends at school, how the hell would I have told you about a game that I was playing? Do you know what I mean? Like this is an old story, right? So I remember back. I mean, it's got nothing to do with what we're talking about, really, but I remember back when Pokemon Red was out for the Game Boy Color. My dad used to go to church a lot, so I used to just sit in the back playing Pokemon Red. And there was a kid there that did the same thing. Like his dad dragged him along to church every Sunday, and he also played Pokemon Red. Didn't know who he was. Didn't go to school with him. No idea who the kid was, right? But he somehow knew how to mod Pokemon Red. So I remember giving him, he goes, "Oh, I'll mod that for you if you want. I'll give you infinite Pokeballs or whatever. I don't know, whatever it was." And that's the only way we knew each other is by every Sunday we'd be there at this 12 o'clock or whatever it was. Whereas now you just message them on Facebook or Instagram, or you send them a tweet or whatever. You know what I mean? It'd be so easier to send stuff like that now compared to what it was back when we were growing up. But that's just because the internet's so much more popular now, isn't it? I suppose it's just more accessible.
It is. It's become the norm.
Yeah.
Which in some aspects, which actually can relate to nostalgia. Actually, in some aspects, it's so much easier to access now. It like anyone could do it. And I know a lot of people that are much of an older generation, like, I don't touch that. I don't understand it. It's like, so you're telling me that you could work a 16-hour job? Well, no, sorry, not 16 hours. Like, I'm just saying, like a 9 to 5 job every day for most of your life, going for all that training, and you then don't want. It's not the fact that you don't understand this; you don't want to understand.
Yeah.
And by pressing a couple of buttons,
you don't have the willingness to try to even like embrace it at all.
Yeah.
But some people are set in their old ways on it, I suppose.
Yeah, you can tolerate, like, for example, my grandmother, which I love. I just love the fact that she was a bartender for most of her life in terms of the working industry. She had to deal with drunken arseholes, people threatening violence and being creepily flirted on. But now she can't even want to go, "You're connected to the internet." Like,
it's a scary thing, isn't it? People fear things that they don't understand.
Yeah, and which is the irony is, though, Adam, is like, I would totally agree with you. But she did attempt it, and then she loved it at one point, because like all she wanted to do on the internet is play crossword puzzles, which was great. There was an entire site, and I showed her this site, and she played it for donkey's years. And then all of a sudden, she just decided not to because her internet was down one day.
I suppose she didn't know how to fix it, I guess, and then she couldn't be bothered to learn how to fix it.
But honestly, she was obsessed with it at one point. It's crazy, but like as we stated earlier, it's one of those things where we take for granted now. But I don't think it's the fact that we took it for granted. It's just more to the fact that in our age at the time, it was new, and we got accustomed to it, and we learned from it. But then you got kids now that could just pick up a tab and know your password, and you're like, what the fuck?
We are a weird generation because our parents grew up entirely without it, and now it's just this new thing. Whereas we grew up and progressed as the internet was progressing, and we was growing up at the same time. So we learnt it as it's being, brought out. For instance, the iPhones. I mean, I remember being in high school and MSN being a new thing.
Oh, do you know what I mean? No, that's nostalgia. That's nostalgia.
You speak to anyone now about their Bebo account or on MySpace, and they're like, "What are you talking about, Granddad?" And I'm like, "I'm 29. I'm not." It doesn't seem that long ago to me, but it was ages ago to people that are younger than. And it's really, whereas the people like my daughter now, for instance, could operate an iPad before she was 4, because that's just how they're taught now. Like it's crazy, really. I mean, we was lucky to have, when I was in primary school, you'd be lucky to get 6 computers in a classroom. Now they have
Trust
an
me.
IT floor in her primary school, and she's in year 2. Like, it's crazy to think of the difference. So you can see how like easy it is for them to pick this stuff up, and compared to when we was growing up, and how access, just generally even accessing the internet was so much harder for me where we live, because we lived in the country. Trying to get BT broadband down there is nearly impossible, whereas it's available nearly everywhere now in the country. So like it's mad how things could progress so far ahead, which is why I don't really get when people say, because I don't know if you follow stuff with like the UFOs and stuff, where people were talking about how the government released certain files and said that it's all real or whatever because of the footage of that pilot. And everyone's like, oh well,
Yeah.
it can't be, because one of the theories are, because I'm not totally sold on anything really. I mean, either or. One of the theories was that it's not necessarily like aliens; it's just us from the future with better technology. Because why would we need to have all this decent, have to have muscle mass and everything else if our technology has got so advanced that we don't need to lift stuff anymore, but we can just talk telepathically rather than have to use our mouths? We wouldn't need mouths anymore, because eventually you just evolve out of using it, wouldn't you? Like, Elon Musk's already talking about having brain chips in your head, and he was talking about this last year. He said we're 10 years away from curing cancer. You can have a chip in the back of the ear that lets you download the language, like, and you can be able to, and you said you'll be able to text message each other through your head just from thinking. Like, and that's in 10 years. That's in 9 years' time apparently now. Whereas if they're thousands of years ahead of us because of all the solar systems and star systems that there are out there, which they've found there are thousands and millions, who's to say that they haven't come up with some sort of technology that they don't need to have massive amounts of muscle now, or even a mouth, or any of that sort of stuff? It's kind of crazy, really. And you think, and people are like, well, this isn't possible because that their tech must be really, really ahead of ours. And going back to the nostalgia point, if I went to 1994 version of myself or my parents with my Galaxy 20 5G iPhone now, they'd be like, you're a magician, because you can take photos with your phone, download it into the cloud. What's the cloud? And then you can, using the access to 5G, can then send it to anyone in the world within seconds. And they're like, oh yeah, okay, sure you can, you nut job. Like, think about that. And that's like 10 years progression of the internet. Look at from our perspective, right, of having MSN to what it is now. Because when we was growing up, it was just a thing, wasn't it? Like, yeah, people used the internet for games, to send emails. You had Word document and Excel for school, and then you'd occasionally play Snake or whatever. I don't know. Or Paint 3D was the shit when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Or MSN or Bebo. I was like, oh, have you checked on my Bebo account, my MySpace page, of which I never used, by the way. I had one, never really used it. Whereas now, people cannot put their phone down for more than 2 seconds because it's their life. And I'm exactly the same, because you use it for everything. But back then, you wouldn't even care about having a phone. I can remember getting a Motorola Razr when I was in year 7 and thinking I was the shit because it had a flip phone on it. I was like, yeah, this is sick. I got 4 ringtones, man. Fuck yeah. Well,
Fuck yeah, Snake 2. Let's go,
you know
bro.
what I mean? Like, Snake 2, whoa. But like, it was crazy. And like, I was like, what? I can Bluetooth someone's song down to my phone and have it in like 1 hour. Fuck yeah. Whereas like, you had to hold your phone next to the other person's phone for the Bluetooth to work. It's like, oh, it's magically connecting for the space-time continuum.
I got a pixelated fish as my title screen
Yeah,
before I access my phone. Fuck yeah.
I thought it was awesome because when you had the Motorola Razr had like the little circle on top of the phone, so you had your image, and then when you flipped it up, it would animate and stuff. It was crazy. Like, whoa, so advanced. And like, even that, I was like 2 years behind everybody else. Everyone was already on like iPhones or whatever. I don't know, making rocket launches out of the phone. I don't know what they're doing, but think about like how it is now, where like my daughter has a better phone than most of my family, and she barely uses it. It's just for like contacting me when she's going between her mum and me. But like, her phone is miles better than the phone that I had in my 20s. Do you know what I mean? But to her, that's just like, oh, it's just a crappy old phone. But it's like the progression is crazy, and it's what's a massive difference when you're trying to talk to people. When you don't think there's that much of an age gap, even if they're only like 5 years younger than you. Those last like 5 years are mental, really, because of the progression and how they relate to, technology or games or even different. It's like most of the people that you come across now, like if it's like fellow streamers, if you see them on, because there's social pages on Facebook and stuff that have like Twitch streamers and stuff, and they have like descriptions of their stealth. They're like, "Oh, I'm a COD player. I grew up playing COD," and I'm like, "I grew up playing Duck Hunt on the Sega Mega Drive with the crappy little plastic gun. You shoot the guns down, and I had like Street Fighter and Tekken was the shit because I used to play the Tiger Wrestling, had Mortal Kombat and Golden Axe, fucking Golden Axe. Yeah, do you remember that?
Mate, Golden Axe
Golden
was
Axe
the
was
G.
shit. Like I love that. It's like, no, this I can go sideways and I can ride a dinosaur while slapping a golden axe around. Like, yes, please. Like, if I go to someone, oh, do you remember the cartridges? They were hilarious. And they're like, what are you on about? I play Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, and Zombies, and it's just like the difference is mad. Like, and it's kind of hilarious.
But that's the glory thing as well when it comes to the gaming, like in terms of the general public of games.
Yeah.
Like you could play a game on a Sega Genesis, and then you could go all the way of playing a game on the PS4 or Xbox S series or whatever, and like you could still enjoy it as much as like, because graphics is a state of mind. Graphics does not defy a good game,
Yeah,
and
I
this is
get
the
that.
thing.
I get
And there are so many people that find it like, oh, look at these graphics. The graphics are good. Like, graphics are great. Don't get me wrong, but if someone gave me two options, the original Doom, and I played the PS1 version, which is not the PC, which is basically a PC port. If someone gave me that, and then gave me something like, I don't know, what's popular, but decent.
Warzone, I guess. That's very popular. Call of Duty
Yeah,
Warzone.
if someone gave me Call of Duty and Warzone, I would play Doom. Not because I'm some outcast or someone that's trying to prove a point. I would play it because I enjoy it. Now, Warzone, I have played, I did enjoy, but sometimes there's nothing better than just playing a solo campaign game.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And people forget about that. There's so many, like this is the problem with AAA marketing, and this is the reason why, again, I love the Doom franchise. It's all about campaign, and like they did make a multiplayer, but no one played fucking Doom for multiplayer, bro. And this is the reason why Call of Duty died, because people forgot that the campaign made Call of Duty, and then they slowly forgot about that
Yeah.
until its obscurity.
Again, talking about games coming out with half-assed content, just because you put a PUBG mode in there doesn't mean you can delete one of the best features in Call of Duty, which was the campaign. That's the only reason I ever played it, was the campaign. But anyway, carry on.
No, that's true. Slowly and surely, and this is I was actually watching something about the Call of Duty series, about where did it go wrong, and like a fun fact, I was very late to the PS4 game. I had a PS3 for so long that when I did eventually get a PS4, only 2 years later they were announcing PS5. That's how far behind I was in a generation gap. But I still played the shit, and it still has a massive fan base to this day. Black Ops 2.
Yeah.
On multiplayer and on zombies. And even though, the campaign was not as good as the first one, it was still good. But that was such, like, multiplayer then and zombies then were simplistic, even though they did get a bit of complications. But it was like the highlight. It's same as Modern Warfare 3, which I'm going to say something that's going to piss people off. So I'm just going to say it now.
Warning. This may
Yeah.
trigger some people.
I think Modern Warfare 2 is overrated.
Like the multiplayer, do you mean, or the campaign?
Just in general, I think it's overrated.
So
I think
that's what.
I think the multiplayer is definitely overrated.
Yeah,
The campaign's good.
I,
The campaign's great.
the campaign's one of my favorite campaigns. If you're going to pick a Call of Duty game, that's one of my favorite campaigns.
Yeah, it's one of the best campaigns, but I love Black Ops 1's campaign.
Oh yeah, it's still better.
Much better.
Yeah, the twist at the end, you're like, oh my god, it's in his head. It's crazy. Loved it.
But like, look back, and I actually prefer Modern Warfare 3 to Modern Warfare 2 in terms of multiplayer. I do like the story in Modern Warfare 3. which makes me appreciate Modern Warfare 3 a little bit more, because it does. I think that's a great conclusion between Modern Warfare 2 and 3. I think that's a great little story, and they should just keep that in history. The same with the Black Ops archive, but they kind of fucked that up. Anyway, but that's the thing. It went all downhill when they decided to be like, oh, we're not going to make an interesting campaign anymore. We're not going to do the things that people loved about it. We're going to do the opposite thing. And yeah, you're going to get 12-year-olds, well, 8-year-olds to 12-year-olds, like, I got you 360 no scope. And like, and then and it's just like, like, that is not Call of Duty. If you ask them what was the first ever Call of Duty, they'd be like, Modern Warfare. Wrong, dickhead. There was like fucking 3 other Call of Duties before then. And they'd be like, well, I don't care. I just want Battle Royale.
There's a appear to be having a stroke right now. We apologise for the technical issues.
Yeah. But I just, this is the thing. Like I think this is one of the reasons why we compel so well when we talk about these subject matters. Is the fact is, we identify and we can take the piss, but at the same time, it's so common of a thing now. This is the reason why I will always try a game if it's interesting. Like, people will suggest something to me, and maybe at first it will be appealing. I will take, for example, Fortnite. Fortnite is an example of a game that I tried, and I didn't like it. It's not because I was losing. It was not because of anything else. It was simply because I just didn't enjoy its building mechanic, and I think it was kind of sloppy in terms of its being made. But
just an opinion.
They created a game that was free, and it was online, and everyone wanted to go for the number 1 spot. It's the only reason why that game got popular. That's nothing to do with its graphics. That's nothing to do with this. That's nothing to do with that.
Again, it's to do with the streamer though that played it. Because if Ninja hadn't played it, it probably wouldn't be as popular. So it goes back to your point a little while ago about streamers making games what they are now.
Like Markiplier made Five Nights at Freddy's famous.
Exactly. Yeah, like it's one of how it works, and sadly now. And sometimes, like what you said, it's not even to do with the graphics or anything, or even if the game's actually any good, it can only because because at the end of the day, whether you enjoy a game or not, that's entirely down to your opinion. To wordplay the name there, but it's entirely down to your opinion whether you like it or not. So if that opinion is really important to you, for instance, let's take PewDiePie for someone, the biggest YouTuber in the world. If he said, I really like this game, and you really like him as a person, and you follow him and you support him a lot, you're instantly going to say, well, yeah, I really like this game because your favorite person is playing it and you want to be just like them and like what they like. So you might not necessarily enjoy the game yourself, but you like it for that reason, and then that makes the game popular when it's not even necessarily that good.
And like, you could say the same thing about like Minecraft, for example. Yeah. I mean, I like Minecraft, and the only reason I started to like Minecraft is because. But okay, this is an interesting story. I liked it for a very different reason why other people liked it. I liked it because someone made a hardcore series where 7 people work on an objective, but if they die during that objective,
and they're out of the game.
They die straight, yeah, and they're out of the game. I love that premise. I watched all the series of it, and I loved it. I bought it for the wrong reasons, but then I found out. But I didn't initially buy it because of that, because that would have been stupid. I bought it because then I saw the other elements of what was behind Minecraft.
Yeah.
And when I found out that the Nether was getting an update and I saw the new Nether stuff, that actually pushed me to buy the game, because I was like, oh, they continue to expand it, and now it looks interesting. Yeah,
they're adding more to it, yeah.
Yeah. So there was already an interest to the game played in a specific way, and then it was an added bonus onto that. Minecraft is nowhere near as famous as it used to be a few years ago, but I now have found a game where I can actually enjoy myself, and I would rather. I've only recently started streaming it, but I played it because I wanted just a game to be lost in my own perspective in.
Yeah,
That's why,
it's very
like, for
much. You should very much. It is what you make of it, isn't it? Minecraft kind of thing.
yeah, I love the fact that, like, on my OG world, the world that I make myself, and then obviously every now and then I get a couple of visitors if I trust them, because I'm that paranoid. um, I always put it on survival medium because if I, like, for example, I only put the community in peaceful because that's a community. I've done that for streaming purposes, and I've done that to everyone to enjoy, to make our own little village. But on my OG world, despite that I go off and do my resources, I could make the game so much easier by putting it on peaceful mode and I don't have all any bother. But to me, that would be boring.
Yeah,
I love the
you
challenge of
like the
getting the
challenge of
resources.
survival. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's that, which is probably why Minecraft's still so popular now. I mean, if you look on Twitch and even YouTube, it's still in the top 10 of the most streamed games. And like you said, it's not the most graphically pleasing game. I mean, it's 8-bit for Christ's sake. It was made absolutely yonks ago, and there's people that have tried to do similar what we were talking about before, where people copied the PT blueprint, if you want to call it that. You know, they tried to make their own version of it. People have tried to make a Minecraft version of their own game thousands of times. You see them all the time. Pitcraft, this, that, whatever you want to call it. There's tons out there. And the reason that Minecraft does so well is because of what you just talked about, how the survival element and the sense of community that you can get from it. And it encourages creativity. I mean, it has a creative mode, for Christ's sake. There's literally it's pretty, even though you're limited to the blocks and the size of the map or whatever, or just general content, especially if you're talking about the console versions, because obviously the PCs are limited. I mean, the amount of mods you can get for that is crazy. But if you're a very creative person, then there's really no limit to what you can make on that. And that's why I think it intrigues a lot of people and why it's still going really strongly. Because, I mean, I don't know if you've ever watched someone do pixel art on Minecraft, but that is insane. That requires so much patience and skill. Like, I don't know how people have the time for it. Have you seen someone do pixel art? It's mental. Like,
I have seen some of the things that like for example, like obviously you got survival mode and like on the PC you have survival, hardcore, and creative. On the consoles you only have survival and creative. Like I like creative, don't get me wrong, but I feel like creative. I feel like is a bit too boring for my taste
yeah,
personally. If
I
I
get
wanted to create
more
something, it
quickly.
would be just to show it off. It would
Yeah,
just literally to be show
it's
off.
like if I want to build a big statue quickly to show you what it looks like, I do it on creative. But like you said, I get very bored very quickly on creative because I like the survival aspect of the normal mode. So, but no,
And
yeah,
like, there's been other games like Portal Knights, for example, which is another underrated good game. That is actually a really good game. It's not like Minecraft. It looks prettier than Minecraft, in my personal opinion. But if that game got the same treatment a couple of years ago, I reckon Portal Knights would replace Minecraft. Honestly, but that's the thing.
time and place in it, I suppose.
Yeah, it is it's that's there's so much of a painful part when it comes to the nowadays of trending genres. This is the reason why I love Doom, because that shit create the people I software is the but if like people that play Call of Duty, you think that's the birthplace of FPSs? If you think that, you are dumb. You are thick as pig shit. You are the dumbest human being ever to exist. The people who created Doom are the people who created FPSs. So you're wrong. Give Doom respect.
I mean, I'm still arguing for Duck Hunt being the first SPS for the Sega Mega Drive. Hashtag Duck Hunt forever. But That's
Shut
just
your
me.
whole mouth.
There's nothing better than shooting ducks with a big plastic gun in your living room at the age of 6. But anyway.
When was that released?
I don't know. I was like, is this? I don't know when the exact release date is. Someone would have to Google that. But it was. I was like less than 6, so it would have been. No, I would have been even younger than that. I would have been about 4, because it was before we moved to my. Because when we didn't move into like the house that I've lived in most of my life, I was 4 when we moved in there, and it was before that. So I would have been like 3, nearly 4, which is so. It was a bloody old game. Um, you say Duck Hunt to someone now who's like 14, they'll be like, what, Call of Duty? But yeah.
At least Duck Hunt has been cemented in Smash Bros. Though, so the history's there.
Yeah, but like you said, the typical audience probably wouldn't go to.
Understand.
Yeah, they just wouldn't bother to buy it. It's very when you talk about games, I'm very much more of an RPG single player person. If I had to pick a genre to play forever, like you can only play one genre, it would be RPG, and it would be multiple choice, karma choice. That's why I'm obsessed with Fallout, because one of the very first games I played on like the 360. Again, when we was talking about graphical jumps and leaps in technology with, going from PS1 to PS2, the jump in that. I played PS2 and then like didn't play games for like a good 4 years because I went to college and stuff and didn't have the time. So then remember going into my mate's house and seeing him on the 360 playing Left 4 Dead, and I was like, "What is this? What is this?" Like, I hadn't gamed in like 5 years, so the last thing I'd seen is like Resident Evil 4 on the PS2. So like the graphical change to the 3, and but obviously because then it didn't have online for me either, did it? So this is the first online game I've seen as well. So I was like, "What is going on? This is crazy." And then went and played. I think this Fallout 3 was the second game I played after that properly. That game is massive, like, because it literally just shoves you out into the wasteland and goes, you decide what you want to do. And I love that about that game. Like, there's a main quest, but you can do it whenever you want, and there's 70 other million things you can pick to do. You can kill whoever you want, you can rob whoever you want, you can do what, or you can be Jesus of the wasteland and help everybody and feed the poor and all this crap. Or you could just go and mug people, or it's entirely up to you. And I love that about that game. Like, I'll happily play it now, and it's like really old. It's over 10 years old now. It's got to be, surely, because it's like the original 360, wasn't it? I think. But
one thing I will say, because I don't know if you know, Adam, because I don't think we've ever delved too much down this road. Do you know how much of a big Bethesda fan I am?
No, I'm a huge one, like a massive fanboy. But I don't know.
Okay. Okay, let's put it this way. Doom 2016, the one I was talking about at the beginning of this podcast, was also made by Bethesda.
Oh, I know, yeah. I know they own the property, yeah.
Yeah. With ID Software. But did you know that I've played 3 Fallout games in my time? 3. Guess which one's my favourite? Out of how you know me as a person, take a guess which one's my favourite.
Fallout 2? Fallout 2?
No.
No? New Vegas then? People normally say New Vegas.
Yes, New Vegas.
Yeah, I was going to say New Vegas, but I thought because you talked about the older games beforehand, maybe it wouldn't be New Vegas, but I thought it was New Vegas.
New Vegas, to me, is one of the best games ever made. It's in my top 10 favourite games of all time.
So many people say that about the Fallout franchise. They go, New Vegas is the shit, it's the one. And I liked it, but I don't think it's as good as number 3. I think that, do you know what? When people ask me about my opinion on Fallout, because I say I like RPGs, and people go, "Oh, Fallout isn't an RPG; it's an FPS with story," and I say to them, "Go yourself." But
it's a mixture of both. It's a mixture of RPG and FPS elements.
It gives you a role to play, and you're playing a game. It's a role-playing game. Shut your mouth.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You create the scenario.
It doesn't give you. It's not an MMO where you're a random character with no proper story. Like, you're actually born into the world. Your dad's there. Your mum died. Like, you have a story. There's a campaign. It's an RPG.
Your dad's Liam Neeson. Fucking get in with the program.
Yeah. You've got to purify the water for the sake of Jesus or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, no, you have a reason to be there. I digress. But yeah, it's I when people ask me about Fallout and what I like about it, and if I had to pick one, I always say I'd rather just mash them all together. because I love the environment of like in terms of the areas you can go and the side stories, because of number 3, because the side stories were probably better than the main campaign, if I'm honest. They were brilliant, some of them. Like going to
That's what all Fallout games are all about.
Yeah, going to
with the side quests.
Yeah, going to
similar to like things like Skyrim and shit.
Oh
like, you
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah. Like you know, we'll get into that in a minute. But I remember going to that city, that little country town, right in the top hand corner of the map on Fallout 3, and everybody there's called Dave, or the mayor's called Dave, or it's like called the City of Dave. And then not too far from there's a vault of just people called Gary, and they all start shouting Gary after you walk in. It's crazy. Like, it's absolutely mental the amount of stuff you can do in that game. And that's why I loved it so much. So I always say to people, I take the atmosphere and the side quests on Fallout 3. I take the actual modifications in terms of what you can do with the guns and the fighting style from New Vegas. And I take the accessibility, like the co-op side of it from 76, because if we obviously, I know, and a side note, I know 76 has had massive issues and is still currently having massive issues. But what I've always said about Fallout is that it needed a co-op mode rather than online. It didn't need online, and neither did Elder Scrolls. We was promised we were going to get a co-op Fortnite, fuck me, a co-op Fallout and a co-op Elder Scrolls, or whatever you want to call the version of it. But they didn't. They should have just and you can get that because on Fallout 4, people have modded Fallout 4 where you can do co-op, and they've modded Skyrim where you can do co-op, and it's brilliant. That's all the game needed. It just needed you to be able to show someone, just share the experience with one other person, and that would be me happy. But and that's why I was disappointed when Fallout 4 came out and there was no co-op. But I loved the fact that you could house build, because one of the things I'd always wanted to do in Fallout was build my own shelter, because obviously you spend most of the
HQ.
Yeah, because you spend most of the game just wandering the wasteland and being a nobody, essentially. And then in New Vegas, again, you was kind of just walking around, but you never really had anywhere to store your stuff. So you was carrying it with you all the time. And it just kind of felt like you never really belonged anywhere, which I kind of get was the point. But even homeless people have a box to go back and live in. Do you know what I mean? Like, they have somewhere to settle. Do you know what I mean? Essentially, even if it's literally just a rolled up bedroll and a cardboard box or whatever. So that's why it was cool when you went to play Fallout 4 that you could make any base pretty much anywhere you want. I know they had like set points, but there was enough of them on the map where it was pretty much anywhere you wanted it. And you could even set up, like the AIs to come and harvest wood and stuff for you and stuff. It was cool. I really liked it. I spent a lot of time on Fallout 4. I just thought the story was terrible, which is why I loved New Vegas more. But then I also liked the atmosphere more, number 3. So I'd kind of merge all 4 games together if I had a choice. Just because I wasn't that fond of the whole New Vegas story, with like Mr. Chips and bloody
Mr. House,
whatever it's called. He's Mr. Chips. Let's be honest. The whole story was just kind of silly. Like, what you've got Romans fighting savage people, and then there's a robot, and he's got a robot army now, and all of a sudden everyone's dead, and it's so weird. Like, I didn't really get it, and I didn't like it. I did, but again, some of my favorite side quests in any game I've ever played came from New Vegas. Like, do you remember going into that gang where everyone was dressed like Elvis and gave him an Elvis haircut?
That was out of New Vegas. Yeah, out of New Vegas.
And then you could go round the corner, and there was a gang of grannies with rolling pins, and it's just all grannies with rolling pins. And then you go even further round the corner from that, and there's a sex robot that like does stuff to you, and it's messed up. And it's like it's crazy. And they had like a dirty version of the New Vegas Strip and stuff. It's really, really good. There's a lot to it, and that's what I liked about that game in particular. But if I had to pick one game out of what we've currently got, I'd pick Fallout 3 hands down every time. Even though it doesn't have a sprint button, even though the aim button isn't actually an aim button, it's just a hey, let's have a glance button, because they didn't believe in aiming then apparently.
Just.
You aim down a hunting rifle from Fallout 3, and he goes, It's what it sounds like when you aim down the stairs. And you shoot someone dead on, and he just flies above them. You're like, that's not where I shot at all. So, like, but I kind of like that about it, that it's clunky and stuff. Like, I don't know if anybody listening or yourself, Mike, has ever tried to get power armor in Fallout 3 before you meant to get power armor. There was a glitch you could do, but it was hilarious.
I didn't know about that, but all I know is that it was literally the driving point of most people's sanity to get
Yeah,
to that.
so I heard about this because obviously, and that's one of the things I hated about Fallout 4 and I hate about 76 is the fact that any old Tom, Dick, and Harry can just jump in power armor and he instantly knows how to use it.
Oh God, yeah.
You're giving a civilian a tank and going, you can use it without any knowledge. It's like, no, people can't just jump in a car and drive them straight away, which is essentially what power armor is. Some of them have rockets and guns attached and all sorts of random crap. Like, it's heavy machinery. They should need to know how to be trained in it. But I did like the fact that they changed it from normal apparel to actual armor that you have to step in like Iron Man. That was cool. I just wish there was some sort of like, training mission to know how to learn to use it first.
You had to have like a certain skill level.
Yeah, because like in Fallout 3, you had to go through basically the entire campaign, become Brotherhood of Steel Knight, and then learn the training to use the armor. And then you put the armor on, it's like, oh, it's basically a top. Cool. And a helmet.
Basically, you had to have like speech 100 to do well in the Fallout franchise.
Yeah, it was crazy. Whereas in Fallout 4, you guy finds it on a roof and then fights a Deathclaw with it straight away by accident. And he's like, oh, okay, I instantly know how this works, even though I've been frozen for 20 years. But it's like, what? Hang on a minute. Can we hold the phone? How do you instantly know how to use this death machine you just jumped into? And you're automatically fighting this creature you've never seen before, but you automatically know how to defeat it. It's like, hold the phone.
It kind of disrespects the veterans of previous
Yeah,
installments.
I was a bit like, what is this?
Yeah, because like at the end of the day, the one thing I loved about the early Fallout series, because like I'm a massive fan of Fallout 3 and New Vegas. I played the shit. I've put literally hundreds and hundreds of hours back in the PS3, and I love Fallout 3. I do agree with you. Like, it's probably my second favorite, but I will always love New Vegas more, and I will get to that, the reason why.
Yeah.
But the thing about Fallout 3 is it gives you the option, and like with the earlier, it gives you the option to be you. I've always been the helper and the support, and picking logic over madness in some situations. And then sometimes you get put in a position, like with the Knights of what's it? The Knights of no, not the Brotherhood of Steel. Brotherhood of Steel. That's it. I wanted to be friends with them, but I was forced to a point where I've been so good with other people, where I had to kill them all.
It was a moral dilemma. Yeah.
And that hurt me. That hurt me because I liked the Brotherhood of Steel, but I was so good in some other aspects and in general story and side quests that there was a loss.
That was the one good thing, while we're on that point, that Fallout 4 did very well, is that confusion in between. I really want to support the Brotherhood. I understand what they're doing, but I can't remember what they're called. The Minutemen, that was it. I've got the Minutemen on the other side who I've also been supporting and helped them get their castle back, and now I've got to kill them all because the Brotherhood have just told me to. Or you've got to go and rob random farmers for food. It's like, hang on a minute. And you're kind of just torn in between. Like, but I get what you mean.
Yeah, it's like crisis points. It's like you want to do good everywhere.
Yeah, you want to help everybody. Yeah, please everybody. Yeah.
And then the game puts you in an ultimatum.
Which is why I like the Fallout franchise, because it makes you think, doesn't it, when you're doing stuff? It's not just point and shoot or murder this fool for reasons. It's like, okay, there's an actual reason why I'm doing this, and you fully understand if you kill someone, especially in Fallout 3 in New Vegas, you understand if you kill one person in particular, what exactly is going to happen, why you're doing it, and how will it affect the rest of the game. Like, it explains all of that really well to you. I mean, first 5 minutes. I mean, when I first played Fallout 3, I walked out the vault and went left, completely missed Megaton for 5 hours. Don't ask me how I did that. But I completely went, just walked, because I walked off to the first village I could see from the distance, which was that tiny little town, which is literally feet away from Megaton. But for some reason, I didn't look right. I just kept going left. I think I got attacked by a raid or whatever. I saw the big rocket and found some Nuka-Cola. I was like, oh, what's this? Because obviously at the time, I had no idea what Fallout was as a friend.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just carried on walking, ended up in Big Town, did the police station mission, then carried on going and then ended up at Rivet City somehow. I ended up walking all the way around the map at the top, coming down to Rivet City, and then going, huh, I can't progress any further with this campaign. What have I missed? And then I was like, I Googled it. It's like, where am I meant to go from this mission? And it was like, Megaton. I was like, are you serious? I've missed the start of the game for the last like 6-7 hours. It's like, what? Like, but that's down entirely because of my choices. Do you know what I mean? Which is why I really liked it. The fact that it's just really long-winded around, don't it? So when we recently streamed it, I say recently, it's a couple of months ago now. The first thing we did was blow a Megaton within 5 minutes. I just nuked the place for lols, and then went and chilled with Tenpenny, and then just sat there. And then, it made me laugh when he goes, "Oh, I'm going to make you the richest man in the world," and gives you 1,000 caps for murdering like 50 people and destroying destroying houses and people's lives. And so he goes, "You have 1,000 caps, son. 1,000 caps isn't going to get me anywhere. I'm not loaded. What's this stuff?"
That's the great thing. Like, Fallout is like the two things I can take from the Fallout series as a whole is the choices and exploration. Them to me are the two major factors that is the reason why you play Fallout. That is the two main factors that makes Fallout to me a great franchise for what it was. But the FPS stuff, like the actual first-person shooting stuff, if you're seeing it as as purely that,
it's terrible.
It's terrible. It's mediocre as shit. It's mediocre as shit. Like it's bearable, but it's ultimately bad. Yeah. But that's the thing. You don't play it because of that. You play it because of what else can I find? What things can I find? Like what's this bunker? What's this pathway? What was that Deathclaw fucking guarding and shit? That's what made Fallout so appealing.
And that's why I think a lot of the issue come back was 76, because again, I know all the issues it's had, but to be fair to Bethesda, they fixed a lot of it now, and it's very good now. I know it has still a lot of issues still, but they fixed majority. Whereas people didn't understand, going back to your point about how it's not meant to be an FPS, it's just got elements of it because it's a survival game. You're going to shoot a gun at some point. Like,
yes.
So it needs to have SPS. So because Bethesda had made, for the last 10 years, nothing but story-driven first, FPS later games, and then tried to do it online, they made 76 a story-driven game first and an FPS afterwards. And then everybody, because going back to being from the age that people are, the newer audience won't necessarily have played Fallout 3, New Vegas, Fallout 1, Fallout 2 that are on the PC only. They won't understand what 76 was meant to be. 76 was meant to be a fan service that they realised that we wanted co-op for years, and they went, "We'll give you co-op." But then because Fallout 3 and New Vegas and Fallout 4 were all they were similar to how we talked about Minecraft. It's you get out of it what you put in. A lot of the story comes from reading comic books you find, or reading different articles that you find around the wasteland, or talking to. I suppose in 76 would just be robots, and I do agree that they needed AI in there from the start. Totally agree with that. But a lot of it, there was still quite a lot of story to it. You just had to go and find it for yourself. And a lot of the newer audience who only know Fallout New Vegas, or they knew Fallout 4 probably because it's popular. So they're going to see it in IGN videos and all the rest of it. So they know what the name of it is, but they don't necessarily know what the backstory of Fallout 3 was and the older games and what it's about and the lore and everything else, which is what gets people invested, which is why people love Skyrim till this day still, is because there's so much in the game. And a lot of it, you have to go and read yourself. You have to go and look for this stuff. But the new audience don't want it. They just want to go and do it now and kill stuff now and shoot things now. And they just have to do fast-paced stuff. So they don't like that sort of having to go and create your own story with it within Fallout 76, which is why it got such a bad hate, I feel, because it wasn't initially meant to be for that type of audience. It wasn't meant to be an FPS game, and people were like, "This is a crap FPS game." It's like, it's not meant to be an FPS game.
There's an element of patience.
Yeah, like the amount of time I can tell, I've spent currently about 760 hours on Fallout 76, according to my last check. I'm still finding stuff And when I say stuff, I mean like finding articles that you can read in like offices of buildings you go through, or um, weapons that you pick up that have hidden descriptions. I'm still finding stuff to this day. As of like literally before we started this podcast, I was playing 76 like an hour before. Um, I'm still finding stuff today after playing the game for a solid 2 years, coming up on 3 years. There's still stuff I haven't figured out about the game, like in terms of like hidden stories and locations. I'm still finding locations nearly 3 years later. That tells you how much they put into the game. But people just moan about bugs and the FPS is crap. The FPS side of it is rubbish, and it hasn't got AI. They put AI in the game. They gave people 3 lots of free DLC content, and still people are still moaning. It's like it's a brilliant game. Like there's no reason why you shouldn't play it now. It's definitely worth £60. Like there's so much content to it, and it's like I wonder if they brought out Fallout 3 now or Fallout New Vegas now, would it get so much praise if it was released like now at times? I suppose when it was, because obviously when it came out back then, it wasn't FPS wasn't a massive thing, was it? Then it wasn't not in terms of like compared to now. Do you know what I mean? If you compare Call of Duty now to when Fallout 3 came out or when Doom came out, as to what it is now, it's nowhere near as popular as it used to, as it is now than back then. So
Exactly.
people's expectations aren't anywhere near as big. So I reckon if they released an Elder Scrolls Oblivion or a Fallout 3 or a Doom now, or think of an old game that's really beloved because of how old it is. I mean, if they released Resident Evil 4 now, which they're probably going to because they're remastering it or remaking it, whatever they're calling it, people are probably still going to moan when it comes out. Because if they keep the over the shoulder shooting, people are going to moan. Because I hated that about Resident Evil 4. I couldn't stand the over shoulder shooting. I hated it. I just wish they'd gone first person, which is why I love Resident Evil 7 so much, because it was first person and you could actually see what you were doing. Because
Yeah.
trying to fight a world chainsaw guy as you're trying to find the laser pointer to put it on his head is ridiculous. But if they released all those types of games nowadays, they do terribly. People would moan at them because of the type of game that it is, and but that's just again a generational thing because that's when they're released at the time they were fresh. Like people had never played. Obviously, they played Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, but that was 2D. It was just this was one of the first. I know Oblivion was before that, but this is one of the probably the top 10 at the time that came out that had a karma system. You could go anywhere and do whatever you want. It was completely, it wasn't necessarily completely story driven, but it had a really good story behind it that was quite long as well. Like it takes you a while to complete Fallout. If you wanted to do absolutely everything on Fallout 3 in New Vegas, and even 4, to be fair, it would take you a fair few hours. Like it's not like a week thing; it would take you months. And then even the DLCs were amazing. Like Project Zeta from Fallout 3 was crazy. Being abducted by aliens. Are you serious? Um, and what's the one from Fallout 4? Nuka World was amazing. I don't think I ever played New Vegas DLC, so did I? I can't remember. I can't remember what they were called now. Operation Anchorage was number 3, wasn't it? I believe. That was really good. You got like, the first time you got a gaze rifle was that.
Yeah.
There's just
That,
tons of it. Do you know what I mean? There's tons.
that's the thing though with when it comes to like epic franchises of old and then revamping them. You can do it right and get with the times. And like for example, again referring to the Doom franchise, a lot of people were skeptical because there was a lot of patches, like a lot of mishaps during that process. I mean, there's Doom 1 and 2, and then there was Ultimate Doom, and then Doom 64, which all had like a similar concept that it was just go in, shoot demons, and that's it. And like there was a story, but that wasn't the main focus, which was most people's appreciation. There wasn't even like a proper aim button. But like, and to be fair, people didn't give a shit about that because it was just going around, fixing, sorting out puzzles, killing demons, trying to get to point A to point B. Some people just loved the simplicity of that, and I still do. And then Doom 3 came out, and they were just like, "Why are you trying to make this a survival horror?" And then they fixed it in the BFG edition, which made it more of the old one. It still had this alluring, like dark, dready horror factor, but but that simple change changed it to it is a Doom game. And that is how much dedication and purpose is to certain things. And then a lot of people were skeptical about Doom 16 and Doom Eternal, and I was.
Yeah.
And then they changed the formula, but not to the extent of completely revamping it. They just added different elements. And I tell you what, replaying Doom 16 now, back when I did, I love it even more because it still has the same factor of what Doom's all about, but they just added things to make it much more adrenaline pumping.
To
And
keep up with the times again, it goes back to talking about people's expectations of FPSs, as the time.
it's mainly focused to be you go in, you kill shit,
It's just carnage,
you
isn't it?
enjoy it.
Yeah, it's carnage
Mm.
for the sake of it.
But it's done so well.
Yeah,
It's
people.
fantastic.
I think people overthink Doom a lot of the time for what it is. It's literally just
Mm.
meant to be carnage for the sake of carnage, right? And just deal with it. And I actually really liked that. I just struggled to stream it because, like I said earlier, it's very fast paced, and I found it difficult. But if you ever want to get a stress out, there's a similar like game that I play on the Xbox called Killing Floor, which is literally just carnage for the sake of it. You're just going around murdering things for no reason, but it's like a really good stress reliever.
Mm.
But people overthink. But, I heard people the other day moaning, "Why hasn't it got a story mode?" That's not what it's about. It's about just carnage for the sake of it. Like, just don't overthink things. But people always want to expect extra out of stuff, even though they're not necessarily advertised that way.
Mm.
Whereas before, I never heard people moaning about older games because people didn't have as much of a voice as they do now. Because again of the technological enhancements, so people can get on Twitter and moan about something and even tweet the bloody developer now, which is kind of crazy, and it changes.
I mean, like, there is a lore behind Doom, but it is completely optional to explore it. There's like data logs and stuff. Oh, reading? Oh, that's
Which goes
so
back to our
fucking
other
ink
point.
and
Yeah.
paper. Like,
Yeah.
fuck off,
How
dude.
dare you make
Like,
me read?
yeah, I do. And I love the lore in Doom. I do, but it's optional. You don't have to. You could completely ignore that, but it wouldn't like water down the experience. And and this is what I was about to justify. You know how you said like these games, if they revamped them, like Fallout 3 or New Vegas or Fallout 4, like would it be the same experience? Because then like in terms of what you've just said with about 76, because I found a similar issue with the Crash Bandicoot franchise recently.
Yeah.
Like they revamped the trilogy from the PS1 to this, and I will hands down defend that game to the grave. The revamped edition is the definitive way to play it. It is absolutely fantastic. It's great. It's magnifico. It's one of the best remasters ever created, or reimaginations, or whatever. However, because basically they got the same, it's exactly the same gameplay, but they gave it new graphics, and they didn't do too much to it to make it like, oh Jesus Christ, but they didn't do lack of it like going, oh, is this it? It was such an enjoyable experience, and they just tweaked it to perfect certain things, and it made it great. Like if someone went to say, which one would you rather play, the 1966 original Crash Bandicoot or the one in the Insane trilogy? I'd say the one in the Insane trilogy because it's just better. It's just better
The problem.
because it's the controls. But my point was, Crash 4 came out, right?
Yeah.
That game, it's good. It is good, but the marketing is piss poor. It is literally directed, in my opinion, it is literally directed for veterans of Crash. Because if a casual player that wanted to get into platforming wanted to play that game, I guarantee you they would be put off playing platformers forever. Because it is ridiculously, the difficulty spike hits you so early on that even I, as a Crash Bandicoot fan, was took back by it, and I did not enjoy it. It gets so difficult so early on, where it's just like you are literally marketing veteran Crash Bandicoot players. You are not marketing towards casual players,
But at the same time,
and it gets worse.
Wouldn't you rather them sort of be like that? Because there's a lot of games nowadays in franchises, without naming any in particular, that they try to cater to every audience and sometimes ends up ruining a franchise. Whereas at least that developer is sticking true to what the game is about, I guess, or is not going too far off the source material. If that's a fair comment, I don't know. I don't play a lot of Crash, but there's been games that I've played in the recent years where they've tried to make it too easy or too mainstream, and it's just ruined what the game was about and why I enjoyed it. Last of Us 2, by the way. Why the hell did you kill off your main characters within the first 10 minutes? But still, but you know, they change it for the sake of it, for shock factor and all this, and it's mainstream, it's so shocking, and it just ruined. I mean, look at The Last of Us 2. They've ruined that franchise now. I just killed it because compared to how the first one was amazing, how people like idolized that first game, still do, and the amount of rage that came out of that second game when it came out because they killed off Joel or whatever, wasn't there? And people were like, I can't believe you've done that. Oh, yeah, spoilers, by the way, but it's been out for ages now, so you should have really played it by now. I watched it on YouTube or something. But that's a perfect example of them changing it too much. So I don't know whether I'd rather them do what you said, where it catered towards their loyal fan base, which has served them obviously quite well up to this point, rather than trying to make it for everybody when, not every game is for everybody, because some people don't like horror, some people don't like FPSs, some people don't like side scrollers.
It's more to the fact that what they did is, like, you could play the original PS1 and, like, again, I'll go back to the first Crash, right? It is the most difficult out of the three, and there are things in that game that I would consider BS, but you'd still have to get through the game. You'd still have to get through a good 12, 13, 14 levels to hit that difficulty spike.
So you've kind of got used to it, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. It's there's an ease to a transition. However, in this one, it's World 4. Okay, you expect me to learn a brand new element, which it does help. Don't get me wrong. It does ease you to the transition, but then it expects you to be fucking pitch perfect. And the worst part is that you could go through that game generally. Going for the game generally is fine. It's fine, but it teases you with all these different skins and getting different gems. The gem collecting in that is abysmal, and it's not worth it. It is. You get rewarded with costume skins, and that's it. Fair enough. It is better than what you got from the trilogy, the Insane trilogy, but that was more like, the levels were much shorter. That it was very point A to point B, and there was a replayability factor since the levels were so short.
Yeah.
In Crash 4, the levels are so long, and the game expects you, even if you did everything perfect without dying, you still have to replay that same level at least how many times? 4 times. And that's if you play pitch perfect on every one. So on an average, say if you're new, you'll be having replay value on the same level at least 30 times.
So I'm assuming where you're coming from what I'm hearing, is that your problem with the new one is that the skill level requirement of entry is too high too quickly, rather than the old games built you up to be able to cope with the skill change later on.
Yeah.
It's too difficult, too fast for new people.
Yeah.
It just puts them off.
Yeah. There's no ease into the transition. There's literally no ease into the transition.
On the other foot, devil's advocate, Dark Souls, especially the first one, gives you a boss within the first 5 minutes, and everybody hated it, to the point where I know people that played that game and then didn't play it for a solid year because it was that difficult at the tutorial level. All right, we're talking about the first 5 minutes. People didn't play it for a solid year and then came back to it because of how hard it is, and it doesn't help you or anything. The whole it get good, it doesn't hold your hand, all the rest of it. You've heard it loads of times that people play Dark Souls and love it. I'm a massive fanboy of Dark Souls. And then they released the second game that made it easier. You know, within the first hour, you could go a good solid hour without fighting a boss in Dark Souls 2, and they give you plenty of stuff. They make it the skill level much easier to learn. There's even a practice area like this. They make it so much more skill level of the
accessible.
skill level of entry is a lot easier. What you're getting at. People hate it. People shout on it because they were saying this isn't what the game's about. I want it to be difficult, and I like the game because it's difficult. So it swings and roundabouts, I suppose, because you probably will get some Crash fanboys that say, I like the fact that it's difficult because I've played it for years and it's a new challenge straight away. I don't have to wait to the end of the game to get a solid challenge because, as I imagine, the amount of hours you probably put into Crash yourself, like you said, up to the point one of the previous games you mentioned when it gets difficult, you probably had an easy time up to then, and you're like, oh, this is getting a bit tricky now. Wouldn't you rather be straight into the action, having a challenge, and thinking, this is difficult, rather than having to wait to the end of a new game again, having to wait in like 2 or so years for the new game to come out, and have to wait right to the end of the game to play the challenge part again?
See, I agree where you're coming from. However, how Crash Force does it is piss poor, because again, since you don't know the Crash franchise as much as I do, it'll be a bit more difficult to explain.
On it really, but I've played like a handful of times, yeah. So I can't judge on it, but I'm just
yeah. So basically, how the OG trilogy was, or a majority is like Crash 2 and Crash 3, for example. You get the crystal, and that's it. You complete the level. You go for the obstacle levels. As long as you get the crystal, that level is complete. But you can go back into that level or do it on the first time or whatever to get the gem, which is breaking all the boxes. In this new one, there are 7 different gems you can get, and it all requires a certain, like, for example, getting the first gem, 40% of Wumpa Fruit. Second gem, 60%. Third gem, 80%. Fourth gem, find the hidden gem. Fifth gem, make sure you don't die. If you die, you'll get this gem if you die less than 3 times. And then the 7th gem is getting all the boxes. So there's so many requirements to get all these gems. Now, again, if you don't get them all, it's fine. You can just replay this game and get them all. You keep doing that. You keep doing it. Oh, by the way, there's a new version of playing the game, and their new version of playing the same level is changing the visuals. And depending on what the visuals are, because they're very random, is it could be black and white, but every time you spin, you get the color back. It could be a different palette. It could be a different thing. But then they have their own set of other gems. So again, you have to replay the same level at least multiple runs, and you're not going to find everything straight away. You're not going to find it. So again, you'll be playing the same level just to get these gems at least 30 times, and like beyond 30 times for some people, all for the sake of getting multiple gems, and all for literally skins of the character.
The effort doesn't meet the reward is what I'm getting.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's more to the fact that there are over like 40 levels, and it's padding. It's pure padding. You can play this game, like the thing is, you can play the game for the experience from point A to the finish without doing any of these things, and in that itself, it's a good game. It's a great game, and the difficulty spike only, and like I've just noticed the difficulty spike is so early on for the sake of it. It's for padding. It's not because that
seems to be a common problem with newer games, though, doesn't it? Though, rather than having solid content, it's just padding for the sake of stretching the game out. To say and this is 3 hours long or whatever.
And I think the reason that they did it was because the last Crash Bandicoot game had 3 games in one, which were the original PS1s but revamped for newer consoles. And I would rather play, and it's not nostalgia talking. It is because they are far more enjoyable. Because the level design concepts they're not, I would say they're short, but they're not like short as in, oh, it will take you only like 3 minutes to get through. It will still take you a good 10 to 15 minutes, depending your knowledge of the level. So it's still a good amount of time. It's still it's still you still have to strategize. But these other levels, even though some of them are fantastic, and to be fair, they replace some of my best level designs in Crash. But at the same time, they elongate it and pad
for
it
the sake of
for
it.
the
Yeah,
for the sake of it,
yeah,
just for that full price value.
yeah. So they can charge more. So they can. Yeah, it's again that's got sort of going into the whole. I don't release a game that's half-assed for the sake of it and then charge more out. Like guaranteed, I'm assuming there's DLC. Maybe there isn't yet. I don't know how new the game is, but when they release a DLC level for a game like that, why can they put that in the main campaign rather than giving you this filler crap? Do you know what I mean? It's just to make money.
There's like the one thing I like about the new Crash is like you can play 5 different characters, but the kicker is when you do unlock the new character you can play, they play their own perspective of a level, and that's half that level, and then you go back
Oh,
to
that's
the
cheap,
original
isn't it?
character, which is Crash.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you go back to Crash. That plays the rest of the other half of the level, which is the same level that you've already played. So the first
they're
half is
rehashing it.
different.
Yeah.
So if that was lazy, why can't I just play that character in his own perspective, and that finishes rather than me replaying the other half, the same fucking level that I've played over and over and over again just to get the skin, but now I'm playing it again because I want to get the skin for the alternative character that you only play for a few minutes.
Because then, probably from their perspective, because then they can charge you more money because they're saying it includes this alternate, levels. But then at the same time, they don't have to put as much work in because they're literally just reskinning a level you've already done essentially for a little bit. So they're rehashing the same stuff, which is another problem I've got with common, newer games. Is that what you're talking about with filler levels and stuff? Happens a lot, and it's kind of annoying. But like again, that's going to be another podcast because there's so much we could talk about that. We're coming up to nearly 2 hours, by the way. We've got about 4 minutes.
Yeah, I saw it. I see it.
So I don't know whether you want to. Should we probably promote the socials a bit before we go? Because I'm assuming our next podcast is probably going to be about the game industry and talking about filler levels and extra content and loot boxes and all that sort of crap. Because we can speak on that for quite a while. Did you want to let your socials before we go?
So yeah, obviously both of us are streamers on our respective platforms. I'm on Twitch, Mr_opinionated on Twitch, and I'm also Mr.opinionated on YouTube. I also have a Discord and Twitter, which is Mr.opinionated. And it's a community that's friendly and it's fun, and obviously like feel free to join us on them, and I will push this to my boy Simply.
So I'm on Twitch as well, mainly a horror streamer by accident, but we do occasionally do chilled out games and just chatting streams occasionally. So if you ever feel like you want to drop us some ideas for the podcast, feel free to join either of our chats when we're live, or whisper us on Twitch. My Twitch is simply_streams, and then on YouTube it's just simply. You have trouble probably finding it, but it will be attached to the Twitch page because, like Mike said, very new. But we also, I'm on Twitter just under Simply Streams, and also I have a Discord as well, which Mr. Opinionated is part of, called Unity. We'd love to have you. We have Among Us nights every Thursday, so even though we were shitting on it, we do play it. And also, every Saturday we have community games night. So if you'd like to be part of that, come join Unity. We'll leave a link for it somewhere because this is probably going to end up on Facebook and YouTube and everything else. So we'll sort all those links out for you. Thank you for listening to our 2-hour ramble, really, about how old we are and how much we hate FPSs by the sounds of it. But
we do like FPSs. It's just it depends how you treat.
Yeah,
depends how you treat.
So I think we'll probably leave it there because we've got just under a minute left, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you for listening. Bye from me, and bye from
Mr. O. Yes.